I want to use heroin, but I also want to get stuff done. That's why I reach for Heroin AM, the only non-drowsy heroin on the market. So I can get jacked on Skag and then get to work. I can chase the dragon while I also chase this little guy. I'm gonna get ya.
Wow, this might be the first afternoon Mom doesn't need a nap.
Heroin AM.
We at Rochex know there's nothing worse than unexpected house guests. They always make their presence felt.
Give it a minute.
And once roaches move in,
Oh, hey, knock it off with a light, huh?
they make themselves right at home.
He will actually say anything.
Before you face a full-on vitality crisis, you find a testosterone-boosting supplement on TV. And you know it's effective because it's in a giant black canister. You're sold. And before you know it, you're a brand new man. All that extra testosterone has made you an aggressive alpha nightmare. That's why you need Beta Force, the only supplement that can counteract and undo all that other junk you've been taking, so you can be a regular middle-aged man again.
Oh, yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's do a little recapping, shall we? I keep hearing people say, I never would have gone into Afghanistan. Most of these people look to be around 34, 38. If they're much older than that, they truly are without brain tissue. We were attacked from Afghanistan. Osama bin Laden had been in Afghanistan. Almost 3,000 of our fellow Americans were slaughtered. We talk about 9/11 all the time. We see the horrific video of 9/11 all the time. You see the charities that are built out still dealing with the devastating consequences. Tunnel to Towers and so many others. You remember the audio of Chick Burlingame. You remember the phone calls of Americans on airliners. Let's roll. 2 towers came down. The Pentagon was hit. A plane was crashed into central Pennsylvania. They attacked us. They killed our fellow citizens. Many of the young men and women in our services today joined as a result of that attack. What do you mean we shouldn't have been in Afghanistan? I don't even know what that means. Does anybody know what that means? We should have just killed Osama bin Laden and left? Well, that wouldn't prevent everything. That wouldn't prevent a lot. Well, the past 4 presidents screwed up. Well, this past president screwed up. But how did the other presidents screw up exactly? Well, we wanted to do democracy, nation building. You know, we have done nation building. Again, history's important. After World War II, we did nation building. It was called the Marshall Plan. Now, I understand that the barbarians and cockroaches in Afghanistan never had a democracy. I got it. I do get it. But it wasn't as if it was a bad idea even initially to give it a shot. 2020 hindsight, we look back and say, what a disaster that was. Well, it turns out that it couldn't happen. But in other parts of the world it does. But in the year 2014, we pulled out our combat troops. So for the last 7 years, we have not had, effectively, combat troops in Afghanistan. Or if we have, they have stood down. And you know the story. 18 months before yesterday, there were no deaths, no military deaths. We controlled the skies. We had the most advanced air base in all of Asia, built by the Soviets. And now you hear that having 2,500 non-combat military personnel, Bagram, the base that I'm talking about, and CIA and other intelligence there was just a bridge too far. Why was it a bridge too far? The Afghan military was getting slaughtered. They were fighting for their country with our support. 50,000 died in the last 7 years. 66, I've heard 69,000 total. And as I said last night, they weren't all shot in the back, you know. Apparently their special forces are very, very good. But when you have special forces, you need intelligence and you need some backup. We pulled the intelligence, we pulled the backup, we pulled up everything. I'm reading a report today. The former commander of the Bagram Air Base said, I showed up and the Americans were gone. They left at 1 a.m. I showed up 2 hours after they left, he says, apparently, and they never said a thing to us. Now, that's not how you treat an ally. But even the effort to build democracy, which was terribly failed, was an effort to protect us, not to build a new civilization. The thinking was, wrong-headed as it may have been, that if people have a vested interest in a civil society, they won't want to go to war as much. But of course, as we all know, that's not the case with many of these barbarian 7th century cockroaches in Afghanistan. I feel very sorry for the majority of the people in Afghanistan. The majority, the overwhelming majority of the people in Afghanistan don't want the Taliban. The Taliban is a small percentage of the population of that country. Okay, so there was no more nation building going on from 2014 forward. There was no more nation building going on. We had essentially neutralized the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. Thousands and thousands of what we now call ISIS-K and Al-Qaeda and Taliban were in a prison near the airport. Thousands. And one of the first things the Taliban did when we gave them the airport was let them out of prison. This is why I'm not buying this. Well, ISIS-K is the real enemy. They're all the enemy, as I've been saying. And now even some of the Pentagon reporters are picking up on this. Excuse me, the Taliban let ISIS-K out of prison. Thousands of them. If they're enemies, why would they do that? You got to use common sense to try and figure this stuff out. Not ideology. Remember what I said, prudence. The moment we gave up that air base, and the moment we decided that the Kabul airport would in essence become a defensive fort with no external military support, no air support, no forward military ability to go on the offense, those 13 men were sitting ducks. And we're still sitting ducks. We're still sitting ducks. We didn't have to give up that airport. We didn't have to turn the Kabul airport into Fort Kabul, into the Alamo. We didn't have to take out our military first, followed by our intel. We didn't have to do any of that. And we shouldn't have. And we're constantly being told, there was a reporter, I wish I had caught the name of the reporter, who was really, really good today. And this reporter said to Psaki, why do you keep saying the choice was either more massive military resources in Afghanistan or pulling out. He said there's dozens of choices in between. Well, do you have one? Can you come up with one? I have one. Should have left well enough alone. How about that one? But then their answer is this. It's all speculation. And their answer is, no. The only reason the Taliban didn't kill any of our military or attack us is because they knew we had a deal that we'd be out by May 1st. That's not what happened. Our bombers and our jet fighters killed the crap out of them. Whenever they would crawl out from under their rocks, we had intel, we had all kinds of information. We would hit them. They weren't behaving. They were already trying to take over various provinces and so forth. Everything I've told you the last few weeks, you can see how it is presenting itself. Like the Taliban. We don't trust them, but we trust them. We don't trust them, but we'll give them a list of the American citizens. We'll give them a list of the Afghan supporters of ours. But we don't trust. We know they're bad guys, you know. The first thing they do is encircle the airport. Did they do that to protect us? No, they didn't do that to protect us. They did it to prevent people from getting into the airport. And now, because we did what we did, because we got out and didn't leave the status quo, because we got out and didn't leave the status quo of 2,500 non-combat soldiers, an air base that was impenetrable, and by the way, that enabled us to keep an eye on the communist Chinese and the fascistic Russians. It's right on the border, thanks to the Soviets. Now we have 13 dead Americans. Now we're being told, get ready. It is likely more than 50-50 they're going to hit us again, and we're in a crouch position. We have Fort Kabul, the Alamo. We've got this little speck, this airport, and they've surrounded it. And they control everything. And then they tell us, having done this to ourselves, then they tell, well, what would you have us do? The Taliban control, we got to deal with somebody. We have to trust somebody. You created the entire scenario. You created the entire scenario. And now we have our military spending enormous resources on not just evacuation, but settlement. And you'll be glad to know that the proper meals are being fed to the refugees. The proper meals. We're building soccer fields and so forth. I don't hold anything against the refugees. They say they're being vetted. Pray to God they are. I pray to God they are. But we have a different situation now. Have you noticed the numbers of American citizens keep coming down, Mr. Producer? 15,000 or more. Wait a minute. 13. Wait a minute. 11,000. Wait a minute. 5,500. Whoa, wait a minute. Only 500 now want to get out. Only 500 now want to get out. Okay, 500 want to get out. How are you going to get them out? We're going to ask our friends, the Taliban. They're on the list. Please let them out. Please, pretty please, let them out. Our military is there. They're sitting ducks. Don't get me wrong. They'll fight like hell. That's the American military. But you keep hearing media personalities say this is an enormously difficult situation. It's almost an impossible situation. Biden and his generals, Biden and his Secretary of State, Biden and his Secretary of Defense, Biden and his National Security Advisor created this situation. We didn't have this situation 2 weeks ago. They created this situation. They did. Where our backs are against the wall. Where we're struggling to get American citizens, let alone Afghans who supported us. where we're trying to figure out how to get the hell out of there without getting shot in the back. That's why they want to talk about refugees and the proper meals and all the rest of it. When they gave up that air base, they gave up our strategic superiority. That's what they did. When they pulled the military out and then had to bring more military in to Fort Kabul, that's what it became, they put us in an untenable strategic position. Absolutely untenable. And when they did all of this, they ensured that we will not get every American citizen out of Afghanistan. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Well, we only had 2 choices. Nah, we had many choices. Like leave it alone. Leave the border alone. Leave our voting system alone. But no. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Just you and the one you love. Time to tune out the world and tune into each other. You've earned this moment, and nothing is going to get in your way. Unless you own a dog.